episode number 10, I believe.
Double digits.
Double digits! I know. I hope you enjoyed episode 9 last week. We had a little Q&A sesh with your boy and your boy. And so,
See, I wore short sleeves today to show off the biceps.
We talked a lot about Buddy's biceps last week, so we gotta show them off. We're gonna request a cutoff short sleeve. We're gonna do a little trimming.
That's why I did that.
Yeah.
Start the progression.
Caroline knows. But this week we're gonna be talking with Caroline, an amazing human, a good friend, and just a beast, an animal in the streets. And so Caroline does it all, and she's awesome. And Buddy and I admire her a lot. And so we're gonna be talking to her about just courage and how it's affected and impacted her life, and just get to know Caroline. So Caroline, give us a bio about you.
Okay, let's think. I'm 21. I'm from Greenville, South Carolina. I was born in Florida. No one ever knows that, so I lived there for like 10 years. So beach over mountains. Sorry for anybody who doesn't agree.
Great answer.
And then I love Jesus. And that's
Facts.
about it.
Dude, that's all you need. Beach over mountains, Florida, and Jesus. That is a combo for a good person right there.
True.
Nice.
What are you involved with at USC or
Yes.
just in life? Like, what are things that you do weekly?
So I am merchandise chair my sorority, Epsilon Sigma Alpha, which is a service sorority on campus.
Cool.
What does that mean? Sorry, I don't even
Epsilon
know.
Sigma Alpha, so it originally started as like literally just service. It was just serving on campuses across country, and then it turned to a sorority, and it's not Pan-Hellenic, but we are Greek. So it's just based in service, and now it's a sorority, which is really
Greek.
cool. Unless y'all want to join, then it could be a frat.
I'm Greek.
Oh,
You're Greek.
Buddy's Greek. Dude, he runs the Greek sorority. Right? Wait.
No.
I honestly don't very know that much.
I don't know either.
So.
But
I
that's
don't know
awesome.
what I am. Okay. But also, this is my third year at USC, but I'm graduating a year early. So it's a little crazy,
Big
but
time. What are you
Yes, I'm
graduating with?
public health, BA,
Nice.
and a minor in psych.
Wow. What do you want to do next year?
Nothing with it.
Okay.
I want to go into ministry,
Okay,
so
cool. That's
nothing
awesome.
to do with my major, but that's okay.
And our girl has her very own podcast.
Yes, as always.
Come on, plug the podcast.
As always is the pod. Relaunching in the fall. Really excited about that. So that started in October. So it'll be a
Nice.
year in October, which hopefully will relaunch a little bit before that. And I also intern at New Spring Church.
Oh, nice.
So
Awesome. What do you
that's
do
what's
there?
in
Intern.
I'm on the connections team. So if you're new, if you want to volunteer, if you just like need a group, need a community, like it starts there. So
Cool.
it's really
And last
great.
but
I love
not
that.
least, guys.
Oh, I'm on.
Oh, let's go.
I'm a women's counselor for Horizon Retreat.
Let's go.
Yes.
Which is like how we honestly like have all connected the most.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So we
That's
met
awesome.
Caroline through the Horizon Retreat, and that's kind of how we got to know you. And the Horizon Retreat, brief, quick description, is just a ministry for college freshmen to get plugged into a church or a ministry organization here at the University of South Carolina. It's just a weekend retreat, and we help put it on.
Yeah.
And so that's how we met Caroline.
It's gonna be awesome.
But yeah, dude. Okay, let's start talking about courage.
Yeah.
You want to hit her with the big picture question?
Yeah. First question. Over the you're 21.
Yes.
So the first, 10 or so years of your life, you remember, but, you were kind of under your parents' wing, weren't making huge decisions. Over the last 5 to 10 years, biggest, most courageous decision you've had to make that has impacted you now or could be impacting your future in the next couple of years?
The biggest one for me, especially this past year, would be just like trusting God's discernment. I've heard that my whole life and never really understood what that meant. But my path after graduation was I was going to move to Nashville and go to Belmont for grad school, and that was my plan, like, forever. I wanted to get out of South Carolina. I wanted to leave. And then at New Spring, we had a whole sermon about Columbia and the importance of community. And during that sermon, I had a realization, and this is the first time where I was like, this is the Lord really knocking on my heart. And he was like, you can't leave Columbia. It's not your time. Like, you need to stay and settle in, find a community, and pour into it. And I was like, ugh. Okay, I guess, whatever.
Yeah.
So I literally dropped everything, cut all ties that I had for grad school, and have committed to a year after graduation to stay here. And that was like my first step in just trusting the Lord's discernment. And after that, going into like this whole past year, it has changed my life. And that takes a lot of courage because you're not leaning on yourself anymore. Like, you're leaning on the Lord. And, like, it's scary. Like, he never says it's going to be easy.
Yeah.
It's terrifying because you have no say in what you're doing for the most part. And it's typically the opposite of what we want to do. But leaning into that has literally changed my life and changed who I am as a person.
That's so cool. And I love, like, we always talk about on the podcast, you can't be courageous without being afraid first. Being courageous is making a decision despite being afraid. And so it's so cool that you were like, all right, God, I am afraid, but I'm going to, like, follow you and obey you despite that. How do you think it's, like, even just, like, making that decision, how has it impacted your, like, day-to-day life or, like, how you think and stuff?
I think it's just changed my perspective on, like, the importance of certain things. Even just, like, relationships, like, dating, friendships, parents, like, it changes everything because you love people differently and you want to live life differently, so you're more intentional with your time, you're more intentional with your conversations and the people you're spending time with. So just, I don't know, it instead of being this huge frame of the world, it puts you in this little box, being like, no, this is actually how I see people, how I love people, how I want to spend my time, and it's for a lifelong effect and an eternal effect instead of just, like, having a fun moment. You want it to last longer than that and have lasting effects.
Wow, that's
very
really cool.
True. That's awesome. Dang, I didn't talk there for a second. So then when I started talking,
Gotta warm it up.
What are some, like, day-to-day times, just for viewers out there who are kind of probably not even going down the same path as you right now, or, like, going, not a lot of people decide kind of not last minute, but, within the last season to, I'm not going to go to grad school, I'm going to, pursue this year of staying in the community to pour into Columbia as a city, whatever that looks like for you. What do you think that will look like next year, kind of through your own lens, but then also you're just going to kind of let God do that next year too.
Yeah.
But what does that look like for you, do you think?
I think first I have to be really, really stable and solid in my identity and know what that looks like, because I think especially when you come near even if you're not in college, like if you come to the end of college, your identity has been for the past 4 years is college and your major and what you're doing in that. And if that's your identity, like when you leave college, you don't know who you are. Yeah. And then if you're going into a career, your identity is that career. So if you don't have any of those things and you're just like in a season of unknown, you can lose yourself, lose your mind, because that's what I was scared about. I was like, I'm going to lose it. Like, I don't know, like I'm not using my major. I'm not going to be living at home. I have to figure out what to do. I have no career plan. Like, what am I going to do? Yeah. So just knowing who I am first, like in the Lord, and knowing what He's gifted me with, and knowing what my gifts are, and know that like I'm okay. Like I'm Caroline. That doesn't mean nothing. Like I'm not just another person. Like I can still improve the community and spend intentional time with people and make an impact. And I think that's the biggest thing. It's just, like I said earlier, spending intentional time with people and helping in any way that I can. I think in our society, we tend to not ask for help because we want to seem like we got it all together. We figured it out. So knowing that I'm a person that someone needs help, or if they need a helping hand, like they can come to me. Yeah. And just making that more normal.
Dude, that is honestly so big, especially, and I never even thought about that, like your identity. Oftentimes as college kids, or if you're even in the workforce, it's like my identity is what I do. So it's like, or where I'm at. So it's like my identity is I'm a college student, or yeah, I'm an accountant. You know what I mean? Or whatever your current stage of life is. And it's like when that falls apart, or you graduate, or you go to a different job, or whatever, it's like, what do you do now? And so like understanding where your identity is, who cares what other people think? I'm going to make a courageous decision today, because it not only benefits me, but like you said, like the relationships around you, like the relationships that could build or just transform in the next year by you staying in Columbia. Who even knows how good those are going to be? You know what I mean? That's awesome. Yeah. I have another question with this too. How did you like recognize, or like making a decision to not go to Nashville and kind of stay here, like that is a big decision on a like super practical level. Like, how did you come to that decision?
Well, it was kind of awkward and like really hard, because at the time I was dating a guy, and the whole point of me moving to Nashville was to be closer to him. Okay. And so I literally had to be like, okay, well, this is going to affect a lot of people, and it's going to affect like my life, and just sitting down and seeing, like, what do I actually want, like, in 5 years and 10 years? Like, do I actually want to go to school for another 4 years? Do I want this degree? Like, do I want to live outside of South Carolina? Like, do I want all these things, or do I just think that I want them?
Yeah.
You know, so sitting down and having a conversation with my boyfriend at the time first and being like, hey, I'm not going to move closer to you anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to be okay with that because I'm trusting the Lord's discernment. And that's an awkward conversation, but sometimes that has to happen. Same with my parents, and I'm blessed to have really supportive parents. And being like, hey, I know that we've made all these plans for me to move in the spring, not going to happen. So that first and foremost, instead of making decisions, like I made the decision on my own, but also keeping everyone that loves me in the loop because that's just fair.
Yeah.
And then also front end and back end, literally just figuring out what I want for my life. In my internship, we had a really, really hard question that I think we've heard it before. You know, what would you want someone to say if you're given an award for something, or a darker side, like at your funeral, what do you want people to remember you for? Like, what impact do you want to make, like, when you leave this earth?
Sheesh.
And I know, and that just, like, really knocked to my heart. I was like, dang, like, there's so much that I've been spending time and pouring into that I actually, like, don't want to do with my life and don't want to be remembered for. But that's not wasted time. Like, those times were intentional and the Lord used them, but I know now, going forward, that He wants to use me for something else.
Man, dude, was that scary?
Oh, yes. Oh, my gosh. I was like, I'm either going to get dumped, like, immediately, or we don't know what's going to happen, or we're going to have to stay 5 hours apart for, like, ever. Like,
Yeah.
Lord knows how long. But, you know, things work out. They didn't work out for us, but they work out in some way or another.
Yeah.
But, yeah, it was really scary.
And we talk about that, too, all the time. We're like, hey, sometimes making a courageous decision, it feels like it falls flat on its face. And with that relationship, maybe it felt like that, right?
Yeah.
But, like, what's come from it in the, like, recent years, or, like, after that, it's like, oh, wait, I'm actually glad that happened. Or,
Yeah.
I mean, that doesn't happen with everything, but oftentimes making the courageous decision feels so, like, it's so out there. But it's, like, usually the good decision. It's, like,
Yeah.
actually maybe the safer route, because you know life will be better after that decision.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I agree.
Hype. That's awesome. Do you have any questions for us? We would love to. I mean, those were kind of the only ones we had planned, so we'd love if you have any for us, or if not, we can just kind of keep talking and, you know, how are we doing on time?
We got like 5 more minutes.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Honestly, like, I mean, my major is public health, so I've seen a side of college that's been very, very different, and y'all are business. I feel like it's a complete opposite.
Definitely.
Like, I'm just intrigued to know, like, what y'all plan to do with it, and just what that looks like right now, being in college and, like, going forward.
So we actually were talking with a guy earlier,
Yeah.
just about what is this right now? Like, what are we doing? Because we are business students. We are driven ultimately by the Lord to, you know, do this stuff, but a part of that is income, and we want to be able to impact people with that income, and also just provide for families one day, you know, stuff like that. And so it's like, what are we really doing right now? It's like Joseph's doing, he can talk about this in a second. He's doing some stuff on the side. I'm trying to do some just different small business stuff, or getting certified for different stuff on the side. And it's like, man, what are we actually doing right now? And so if you want to say a little bit about what you're kind of doing, and then we can move into like why we're doing what we're doing, and like what we're having to do.
A big thing for Buddy and I, and I'm sure for you, Caroline, but like the impact of like why we do what we do, not for ourselves often, but like for the impact of how it can impact other people, is like what motivates Buddy and I to like get up in the morning. And it's like, all right, how does this transform the life of somebody else in a beneficial way? And like, obviously we are business majors, we're hustlers, like we want to impact a lot of people more than we make money. Like, we know we're fishing for something way more valuable. Like, the transformation of other people is way more valuable to us than like money in our pockets. But we also, like you said, want to provide for like a family someday. And we know if we just go around giving stuff away all the time, like, we're also businessmen. You know what I mean? We're trying to make money too, as a secondary goal. But also, money can also be a great resource to love and serve and impact other people too. I know, like, there's, as a Young Life leader, there's some really awesome donors that like help put on Young Life. And if we didn't have those donors, like, Young Life wouldn't have as much of an impact as we can have. Not that God can't work, because if there's no money there, God can work with nothing. But like, like it helps just move the ministry in a cool way. And so that's kind of like our motivation and like our view on like impact and money and all that stuff. So all that being said, I'm like doing some stuff on the side outside of the podcast to try to like make some money, try to do that, because I don't really know like what, I love college, but we were talking to a guy today who like dropped out. He's a sophomore and he dropped out because his business that he started doing good. And so he was like, I think I'm going to take a semester. He told his parents, I think I'm going to take a semester off.
Oh, that's so
Say this,
scary.
if any of our parents are listening,
Yeah.
I'm scared.
Yeah, my parents know I love USC too much.
Yeah, true.
But kind of like, I don't know if that makes sense or if that was even like a statement or whatnot. But like,
But also we have a
Kinda.
goal outside of, like, once we graduate, to ultimately along the business consulting, business development side of things, where it's like, okay, there's a business, whether we started it or whether someone else has started it, and we want to come in with this new knowledge and this new, because there is a new era of like social media marketing.
Oh, yeah.
And Joseph's doing a lot of Google Analytics stuff, which taps into that more and more. But it's like, okay, there's this side that people don't see, especially if you're 50 years old and weren't around when all this stuff.
It's so new.
And so getting well versed in that new stuff, to be able to go into these businesses that don't have a great social media presence, that don't have a lot of the Google Analytics and what's the other word you all use?
SEO?
Yeah, SEO, like search engine optimization stuff. And so it's like businesses that don't have those implemented into their thing, where we can come and be like, hey, we just learned this, we're marketing and management majors. Let us help, either consult you to be better, or let us join your team, develop this business a little bit. And so that's something that me and Joseph are both kind of interested in.
Yeah, and that's beautiful too, because just transitioning to like the world, I feel like right now a lot of companies and small businesses feel like they're just going to get lost in it. But like being able to do that, like, hey, no, we're going to help you, we're going to improve you, because it's so important nowadays to have that presence. Like, even though to an extent, even if we wish that wasn't true, like that is so important, and there's so much that goes on the front end that people do not see.
Yeah.
And that's something I've learned being an intern at New Spring. There is so much work, it doesn't matter what business you're in, that goes on the front end, whether it's like analytical or like money wise and like just funding setup. Everything takes so much more work than it looks like.
Definitely.
So like that's vital to have.
And like as guys who like are starting businesses and want to start businesses like in future years, like that is scary stuff.
Oh yeah.
Like the guy that we were talking to, like that dropped out, like dude, I'm sure that was scary. Like even being like, all right, I'm gonna rely on these sources of income and like just stop going to school. Like, whew.
Yeah.
I'm sure that was not easy.
No.
But like he's doing good now.
Yeah.
Like he's killing it.
I mean, for 2 semesters for me, I've been an intern this whole semester, an unpaid intern, and last semester I didn't have a job. My income the past 2 semesters has been selling my clothes at Plato's Closet. That's
Nice.
literally been my income. And it was terrifying for me because for some reason I was like, I've worked since I was 15 years old.
Yeah.
I've always had a job. Like 6-7 years of my life I've had an income. And suddenly I'm like, I don't know why, but I just feel like I don't need to work right now and I just need to like rest. I don't know why, but I need to create a space for like the Lord to enter my life and to use it. And that means no income right now. So for first semester, it didn't make a lot of sense, but I understand it now. But like this semester, my internship, I'm the only intern out of everyone that isn't getting paid, because that's just how it ended up being. But I wasn't going to miss out on the opportunity just because I wasn't being paid. And I always heard the thing like, the Lord multiplies. He does. And like, how tithing is important. And I was like, you know what? We're just going to see what happens. And like, I've been tithing like for months, and I was like, okay, whatever. When I tell you like the Lord provides in every area of your life, like financially is not discounted from that. Like,
Yeah,
I don't know
definitely.
how I've been able to afford my life the past year, but it has happened. The very first week at my internship, my tire blew out. And my tires are weird, and they're extremely expensive. Like, they came with the car.
It's not just your tires. A lot of tires
It's
are expensive.
ridiculous. But I was just like, my one tire only was at one shop, and it was extremely expensive. And I was like, this is literally going to be my income for 4 months. Like, I'm going to have to just use it on this tire.
Yeah.
And I came into church on Sunday, and someone had donated the exact amount of my tire to the church and said, they were given an option. They're like, you can give it to this person, this person, or this person. And they chose me. It it was the exact amount. Which that's just
Wow.
like a crazy,
Yeah,
that's a
that's-
Lord miracle.
that's how it works.
But like, that's a really big one. But there are
Yeah.
other little instances where the Lord's like, here you go, you're going to be fine. I got you.
You know what's crazy? Is I have heard that like so many times. We have this like these friends, and they are just like, they're not quite like Buddy and I. Like, they don't really care about the money side of it. They just like love people so good. Like, they love people more than I've ever seen before. They serve people so good. They just are always like, hey, what can I do for you? Even if they're just like out of it, they're still like putting other people above themselves. And so obviously, like, life has bills, life has expenses. And every month, like, they're like, oh my gosh, this person like helped us to the exact dollar amount. They were just like, same thing. They didn't know what the expenses were, but they were like, and they're like, God literally has taken care of us our whole lives.
Yeah.
And like, we're just so grateful for that. And so sometimes like being courageous and like, hey, I'm going to do this, and knowing where your identity lies, like, hey, God's got your back, you know?
Yeah.
Courage a lot of times is just letting go.
Yeah,
True.
dude.
It really is.
Literally quote for the week.
For real, but it's like letting go of this thing to allow God to, like, I don't know, we fill up everything with just content and like consumeristic, and it's like, hey, let's just take a portion of that, let's empty it so that God can actually come in here and do something. And that's the toughest part of our generation, is because we're so consumeristic all the time. It's just like, what can we watch? What can we, eat? I mean, that's kind of weird.
No, that's
but
true.
For real,
It is.
And so it's like, hey, let me clear some of that space. And what can we make financially? Let me clear some of that space so that God can actually come into my life and, do something with it.
Yeah.
And so I was actually talking to my dad today about what we were talking about, just financial decisions and stuff. I had this really neat opportunity to make a little bit of money, but it would require a good bit of my time and just some investment stuff. And I was talking to my dad, and he was like, look, just be patient. Like, the money, God provides. He literally was just like, God provides. You have like people in your life that if you need it, like push comes to shove, you can ask them for money. But then also it's just like, you have God. Like, God is, I'm not just saying you can sit here and just be like, okay, God will provide for me.
Yeah.
It's like, no, let's go serve, let's go be faithful.
Yeah.
And through that, he will bless us. And so it's really neat. My dad was just like, like, just slow down. You're good. You have 2 more years. If you do this opportunity that I was presented with, and, you're working however many hours a week, it's like, you're going to miss out on so much. He literally mentioned the podcast, my girlfriend, my friends, my life group, stuff at Midtown, Horizon stuff. It's just like, you miss out on so much of that when you try to focus, and I do it myself, and this is just being vulnerable, is I get very anxious with financial stuff a lot. And so it just takes away from this space where I can just allow God to come in and be like, yo, what are you going to do with my life? Like, I don't need to care about finances, what's, all this different stuff. It's like, let me serve you, let me honor you, and whatever that looks like in my life, which you are seeming to do really well right now with, saying, I'm not going to go to Belmont and
it's
just
not
staying
done
here.
Well, but...
Well, you just like, I don't know, you could be going to Belmont and doing that kind of stuff, and you're just like, no, I'm going to surrender that and open up that space for God to come in and be like, use me in Columbia, God.
Yeah.
Like, what can I do there?
I think, like, one of the best things I've ever heard, kind of just touching on what you said, I went through anxiety and depression counseling, like, for years, and I went to a Christian counselor, and she was just like, you cannot, like, wait and, like, find time for God. You have to make it.
Yeah.
That's where, like, moving things around and carving time out for God. You can't just be like, okay, wow, this, and this, so I have this little pocket of time, and I will fit God in there. He is not going to fit in there at all, by any means. So you literally have to, like, make a God-shaped hole in your life for him to come in, and that is, like, vital. So, like, ditto to every single part of that.
Dude, discipline equals freedom.
Yep. Oh, amen.
I'm gonna get that tattooed on my forehead.
I want another tattoo, and everything we're talking about, I'm like, I could use this.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Man. Well, we got one last little question for you, and I think we're gonna do this kind of with like a bit of our guests. Is the majority of our audience is like probably college students around our age. That's just what we are, but there's also older people. But what is one thing that you would probably say to college people about living boldly and courageously with their faith, just to encourage them, inspire them to go out this week, this month, this next season of their life to do that well?
I'm gonna look at the camera and say this.
That's
Do not, I'm gonna say this lovingly, don't follow the crowd. Don't do it. It's going to get you nowhere. Like, you are just going to get caught up and swept up in it, and it's not going to take you anywhere. Like, surround yourself by people that you admire and that you want to be like one day. Because for a really, really long time in my life, I have been that person where all my friends were trying to be like, I want to be like Caroline, but I was so lost. I didn't know what was going on, and I so easily got swept up. Like, find your foundation and be set in that. Find community, find people to look up to that will hold you accountable. Like, don't find like a loose community that you hang out with Fridays and Saturdays that you go out with. Like, that's fun. Those aren't friendships that are going to keep you accountable. I haven't had like consistent friends in my entire life. And then once I realized that's what I needed, those friends have not dropped off. They have held me accountable. They're not going anywhere. It doesn't matter where we live. I know they've got me.
I agree.
So just finding a stable, God-loving community, like especially in college, like I was lost completely for the first semester of college. And it took the Lord just like wrecking my life, being like, hey, like you left me. Like you need to come back. And I was like, yeah, I know. You're right. You're right. But that's just like so important. And that if I could do college over again, that's 100% what I would do.
Dude, I got chills from that. I'm going to leave you guys with one thing. All right? Based off what Caroline just said, hey, do not conform to the pattern of this world, okay?
Amen.
We'll see you guys next week.